remember my imaginary friends?
You can't remember if your imaginary friends or the voices in your fucking head.
What's the difference? Do you remember what you would yell to me when I was off in my own world?
Gert to Gert.
Where are you, Gert? Earth to Gert. Gert. Earth to Gert. So I'm starting a podcast, and that's the title.
Gert to Gert?
Yeah. Okay, here we go. A few things are going to happen while I record this podcast. One, I'm probably going to cry. Two, my cat's going to be annoying, and probably my dog too. Right now I'm looking for meditation to do, because in a minute I'm going to talk to you about my anxiety, but first my anxiety's gonna anxiety. Alright, I'm gonna do a 5-minute one. I'll probably edit this out, but if I don't and you want to stick around and meditate with me, that's great. It's just 5 minutes of breathing. I don't know, this guy's gonna talk to me. If not, fast forward 5 minutes if I leave it in. What are you feeling anxious about? The app is asking me. Past events, future events, just generally anxious. All of the above? I just went with generally anxious. Get settled, close your eyes.
Welcome back to the anxiety meditation. It's been some time since you last used this meditation. So, as a quick reminder, research shows that meditation's one of the best ways to moderate anxiety and mental stress. That's because you're giving yourself a quick timeout, spending a few minutes grounding yourself, breathing, and tuning in to just this moment. And since you're not feeling anxious about one thing in particular, I'll also guide you through a technique that can help you manage this type of anxiety whenever you notice it. Let's get started. To settle in, gently close your eyes and take a few seconds to notice the position of your body as it is right now, from your head all the way down to your toes. Take a full, deep breath. As your breath returns to its natural rhythm, gently turn your attention inward to how you're feeling in this moment. And acknowledge that any anxious thoughts or sensations you may be experiencing right now will eventually pass. If your attention drifts to an anxious thought, gently remind yourself that it's just a thought. It's not necessarily true, and it will pass, taking some built-up tension and stress with it. So instead of trying to block these thoughts, simply acknowledge them with the label thinking before once again guiding your attention towards the supportive feeling of the surface beneath you. When you're ready, slowly guide your attention to your abdomen, noticing how your breath moves it in and out. And to feel that motion even more, rest one of your hands lightly on your abdomen if you'd like. The simple act of placing your hand here can instantly calm your nervous system. As you continue to notice the motion of your breath, consider what message your anxiety is trying to send you. Perhaps it's signaling that the expectations you set for yourself are too high. Or maybe it's hinting that you need some self-care or relaxation. What might be true for you? If your hand is on your abdomen, you can let it drop back down to your side or onto your lap as you continue breathing. And remind yourself that you are safe and okay right now, in this moment. Take a nice, deep breath. And whenever you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Whenever you're feeling anxious, I encourage you to come back to this meditation. Use it again and again, as often as you need, to find a little calm and stability. I'll see you soon.
Oh, so it didn't necessarily work because I'm feeling pretty nervous about this. So I'm going to try not to mumble. I do have a tendency to do that. I am going to try to enunciate my words. So today is the start of Mental Health Awareness Month. But I am recording this a few weeks before that. For me, what's happening in my world, not to me, but in my sort of circles, there was a mom that I'm shaking so bad. I just found out she died yesterday by suicide. And today, one of my childhood best friends is having surgery. So I'm anxious and emotional about these events. And now I get to talk to you about my stuff which I've wanted to do for so long. I know that most of you listening know who I am, but in case that you don't, my name's Gert Collier. I'm from a small town in upstate New York. I'm a health and anxiety coach and an office bitch at a moving company. And I'm called mom by two amazing humans. That's sort of a lie. They rarely call me mom. It's been some variation of Gert since they became teenagers. It's Gerb or Girth right now. Outside of being their mom and watching them live their best lives, I like to hike and play volleyball and disc golf, and I have overcome some pretty big and small mental health challenges in my life. My awareness of my mental health came in, I think 2011 or maybe 2012. I had just gotten into another fight with the person I was relationshiping with, and in my typical avoidant behavior, I left. I got in my car and I drove towards West Mountain over towards Corinth, and this was the night that I was finally going to do it. I was finally going to give in to those thoughts that told me to hurry up and do it before my kids got any older. And I drove until I saw the sign for a scenic overlook, and I pulled in and I got out and I just walked until I hit this clearing. And I knew that on the other side of this clearing, the path continued towards that scenic overlook. And I knew that if I kept walking down that path, I would see the Hudson. I knew that I had been traveling up a hill and that at the end of this path, I was hoping to find some place to jump from. And all those times that I answered no to that question, do you have a plan? I told myself that I wasn't lying because I didn't know exactly where I was going to jump from, but the truth is jumping had always been the method that rattled around in my brain. And I know I have to stop moving this microphone. I'm sorry. That night, that path towards the Hudson, that was supposed to be it. I was finally going to do it, but I sat down instead. I just sat in the middle of this clearing and I cried for a couple hours, 3, 4. And at some point I got up and I walked back to my car and I had this completely different perspective. I had this different understanding of my brain, and I understood that I shouldn't be having thoughts like that, and that because I was having thoughts like that I needed to, and more importantly, that I could get help. I understood that my brain was sick. And when I left that clearing, I also had this urge to talk publicly, to openly talk about what my brain was telling me to do, to talk about the depression I had been experiencing. But at the time, I didn't really understand it all enough to open up publicly. And I mean, there's the paralyzing social anxiety and giant fear of public speaking. I'm literally shaking so bad right now. So yeah, that sort of kept me quiet for a little while. And then over the next 10 years of my life, I experienced a few more mental health crises. Some were mine, like the passive suicidal ideations, the paralyzing anxiety I've talked about, and some panic attacks here and there. But most were happening to those around me, to the people I was in relationships with, to the kids I was coaching, and to my family and friends. Oh, this is the part I'm going to cry. In 2014, my girlfriend at that time had a brother die by suicide. It was one of the worst things that I have ever witnessed a family go through. And it being the second time I had witnessed a family and community go through that didn't help. It didn't make it any easier. My panic attack started after this experience when my girlfriend herself expressed her suicidal ideations to me. The worst night for me was when she texted that she was Googling how to make a noose and then fell asleep and stopped responding to any of my texts. And she lived 3 hours away from me. And around that whole time, I was coaching a few athletes that were struggling. I even lied my way into Four Winds to visit one of them. And yes, she still calls me Aunt Gert. Then 2019 came, and there were 2 people in my close circle that made attempts or wanted to. I got to share the plastic twin bed in the crisis center with one of them. After these last 2 experiences, my desire to talk publicly became really loud. I really wanted to talk more about how I survived my shit and in hopes that I could help somebody else. But then the pandemic hit and I got dumped. I got dumped a few weeks after turning 40 during a global pandemic with $2 in my bank account. Being terrified of what my brain was going to do, I did everything I had learned in counseling the previous 4 years, and for me, it turned out to be the absolute greatest reset of my life. Thanks to the pandemic, I didn't have to go anywhere. I was able to stay home and listen to podcasts and read books and ultimately heal my nervous system. And I didn't just heal any depression symptoms. I really started to heal everything. Within the first year of the pandemic, I was able to get off all of my medications. My antidepressant, the Xanax, and even that rotating cocktail of Zyrtec and Claritin and Benadryl. The biggest shock for me, though, was the difference. Despite of how I'm feeling today, the difference I started feeling with my anxiety. 2020 was the first time in my 40 years of life that the constant urge to rip my fingernails off started to go away. At some point, after that volleyball niece made another suicide attempt, I pulled the trigger on going back to school. I ended up at a nutrition school and ended up learning the science behind everything I had been doing to heal myself. That experience opened my eyes to so much about myself and about healing, and through it all, I learned that anxiety has been the driving force behind most of my struggles. But I won't say anxiety has been what's wrong with me, because it's not wrong. Anxiety is not wrong. It is a completely normal physiological response to my environment, to my childhood, to my relationships, and to this society that we live in. It's fucking sad out there. Anxiety has been my chronic illness, and it has always been there since I was that little dirty Gert playing in the sandbox. My anxiety wasn't just the helpful and useful kind needed for survival. It was the anxiety that kept me from experiencing life, that kept me from experiencing joy and happiness. Anxiety was there behind the depression all along, and I never realized it until I started healing it. Until I no longer chewed on my nails, until I started feeling happy. Like, what the fuck is that? Until the day my paddleboard flew off the roof of my car and I didn't feel like shitting myself when the trooper arrived. Like, no rush of adrenaline that day at all. But as I have absolutely learned, healing is not linear. The pandemic restrictions lifted enough to bring my life right back to the crazy, hectic schedule it was, and add in some bad decisions on my part, and the anxiety came right back. 2023, I had what I'm calling an anxiety relapse. I was angry to the point of punching holes in my walls. I was crying a lot. My brain was wishy-washy as fuck. I panicked twice to the point of passing out. One time resulted in a nice little ambulance ride to the ER. But after that experience, luckily, thankfully, gratefully, the universe gave me the gift of EMDR. Literally 1 week after passing out in Hannaford, my counselor calls and asks me if I'll be her practice client as she goes through training. I don't have enough words right now because I'm currently still going through it, and yesterday was a really big session. I am so forever grateful for this experience, for the freedom I feel from my anxiety. Even though I'm experiencing it today, there's so much freedom I feel. I am grateful for the lessons I have learned about myself and how the experiences and memories wired my brain the way that it did. And I am even more so excited to finally be sharing what I have learned along the way, to finally produce what has been in this brain of mine for the last 6 years, to finally have the confidence to put this out there, whether I'm ready or not, because fuck, I do not feel ready at all. But I've already posted how great ChatGPT thinks I am. And maybe if you're listening, you don't relate to anxiety or depression. Maybe it's a physical illness for you. Maybe it's an autoimmune disease or fibromyalgia or arthritis or heart disease. Whatever illness or disease you have in your life, you have the ability to heal yourself. We are not destined for disease just because of our genetics. A diagnosis doesn't mean that that's it and we have to suffer the rest of our lives. Having anxiety or RA in my genes doesn't mean I have to suffer from the symptoms. How we live our lives loads the gun for disease, for pain, and for suffering. As the saying goes, genetics loads the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. Our brains, bodies, and nervous systems were not designed for this standard American lifestyle. The choices we make every day affect how we feel, not just now, but in our 60s, 70s, and 80s. Like, how do you imagine yourself feeling in those years? Or if you're there, how do you feel now? Or if you're my age or younger, how do you feel now? Like, the choices I made leading up to that day by the Hudson River affected the way I was feeling. It affected the way my brain worked. My lifestyle was the reason my brain was so sick. I became this health nerd for 2 reasons. One, I wanted and needed to stay on this planet. I truly thought getting dumped at the start of the pandemic was going to break me. So I used every tool I had and came out the happiest, healthiest, and most mentally resilient version of myself so far. And 2, probably the hardest, is watching the people around me suffer. It has been one of the most painful and frustrating experiences of my life. Almost everyone I know is battling something. Literally everyone I know is battling something. So if I run my mouth enough about this health shit, maybe it'll resonate with some of you. Maybe it'll offer some sort of hope for healing. And that's it. Like, one thing I've learned, it's always healing. It's never a finished product. We constantly and consciously have to give our bodies and brains what they need to thrive. And as I share my experiences, please know that I'm not saying that my way of healing is the only way of healing. What worked for me might not work for you. In fact, it could kill you, you know? But what I am saying is that healing is possible with the right tools in the right environment. So throughout this first year of my podcast, I'm going to tell you about the tools that I have used along the way, the tools that I use every day to stay healthy mentally and physically, I'll share more about my experience with EMDR and all the other therapies I've tried, as well as bring you conversations with other brave souls that are willing to share their journeys. I've got 20 episodes planned coming out every Thursday from now through September, which is Suicide Awareness Month. And I can't thank you all enough for the love and support over the years as I have navigated trying to talk publicly about this. Thank you for listening and for your support on this latest adventure. And if you're listening and are brave enough to record a convo with me about your mental health journey, please don't hesitate. I'm trying to line up guests already for the next season. And if you're listening and you're struggling with anxiety or mental health and you don't know where to start, give me a call or message me or whatever. That's it. Thank you all so much.